Hey everyone, it's me, Patchdown Bogat. I thought I'll make a video based off of epistemology. And what does epistemology has to do with the left-hand path? Well, first of all, what is epistemology? Well, to summarize it, it really acts like a toolbox. Your own personal toolbox that actually exists right here in your mind, that's the toolbox. And it is contingent on based off of how do you know the things you know? And how do you differentiate between your belief system and just an opinion? And I thought that was a really good example when it comes to epistemology. But if you think of something better, then you could, or at least give the actual Wikipedia version of its definition, which is also good. But that's the best way I could come up with when it comes to explaining what epistemology is in a more simpler way. But the reason why I made this video is because I think in terms of epistemology when it comes to our black magic. You see, why do we come to realize that first of all magic, black magic, whatever form of magic that you're doing, even if it's ritual based, when you light a candle, that's still a form of magic. If you do tarot cards, that's still a form of magic because it's divination, right? So why do we come to the conclusion that these tools and what we do within our lives, well, it's actually real? Or how do we come to apply such knowledge to convince ourselves? Well, there lies the answer, isn't it? You see, when I try to take it all apart and I think about my tarot card readings, interestingly enough, I base it off of what I know. For example, I remember the first time I done my tarot card reading on one of my coworkers. It was so astoundingly accurate for them that when I mentioned names, no, not at random, but listening to what my Patreon had told me, and he realized like these two individuals, the names that I've mentioned, well, he knew them quite well. I was bringing up topics in his personal life that is existing without no one giving me information otherwise. Granted, when I think about epistemology, it's not contingent solely off of science, even though science can include it, even by definition. But that does not and it should not exclude magic. I mean, after all, the person outside of myself, my coworker, understood that my tarot cards was pretty much accurate. And that's actually one of the fine points that I could tell you when it comes to using epistemology, when it comes to the occult and black magic. Now, granted, both sides, either you're a light worker or you're somewhere here on the left hand path, you could do tarot cards and you can see the benefits of it. But either which way, when you think about divination and information is given to you that you didn't know otherwise, then that serves as a really good anchor to why you do the things you do. Granted, when you speak to someone who's very skeptical about it, isn't it interesting that even if you did explain it the way this video is actually trying to help you to explain it, people still wouldn't believe you? So that helps me also to appreciate that when it comes to epistemology, it's really more of an anecdotal evidence. In other words, it's something that's based off of testimony. It's based off of something that's not imperial evidence. In other words, as you look at the so-called theory or certain things that major scientists have pretty much looked at as a whole, as a community, that's the interteletia of the world. These individuals were to come together, examine that one piece of evidence, that theory, then they all agree with it. And that's imperial evidence, and there's nothing wrong with it. But unfortunately, when it comes to the left hand path, it won't be considered imperial because the sciences of the world, the scientists, those who see themselves as being intelligent, well, they're not going to take it at surface level. It's just a lot of woo. And I do understand where they come from because we do live in a physical world and we do have to share reality with one another. But if you're like myself, you're probably thinking, well, a lot of that is true in a logical sense, but in an intuitive sense, my reality, it overlaps with other people. Hell, I could be seen as crazy, but at this point, I'm not returning to anything much if you think about it. So I don't give two shits if someone says I'm crazy. So I'm simply just going to say, like, there's things that happen within my own personal reality that others, well, they cannot possibly experience due to them closing off these experiences or just living in a life of just really bad case of self denial. But I know I am basing a lot of this not off of being a con artist because I gain nothing out of just telling people this that's not true. I mean, again, we could sulk and we could try to just counter that as well, but at the same time, I know I don't have any real bad intentions by sharing all this information to you in the sense of me just wanting to be a con artist. But the reason why I'm sharing this is that when I think about the left hand path and I think about black magic as a whole, it's like a lot of it is still based off of your knowledge. It's based off of why you believe in the things you do. Think about it. If you were to write a comment in my a comment section of this video, or someone were to come to you personally and go, why do you even do rituals? Why do you even believe in Satan? And why not God or angels or whatever have you? And you simply just shrug your shoulders and go, I don't know. I mean, granted, you don't need to prove to anyone what you believe in, but I still feel, and that's just me speaking for myself, I always feel that I want to give at least an answer so that I could bear witness to that of Satan, so that he could still be glorified in the things that he's done for me. Hell, I've heard of examples where when people have did past life regressions on people that are like homeless, those people end up, well, thanking these individuals of the left hand path. Either they suffered from amnesia or whatever have you. They're completely thankful. And these individuals will even tell these homeless people, like, hey, look, you can think whoever you want, but it's Lucifer that gives me that abilities. You could thank him. And I find that to be actually really worthwhile because that's the path that I walk. And that's something that proves to me that what I do is good because I get results. Just like with the emails that I receive when I do my tarot card readings and people see how accurate it is and they thank me for it. No, it's not tooting my horn, but it gives evidence that what I do is good because obviously by receiving my tarot card readings, they're not being brainwashed. I'm not telling them things that are not true. I mean, if I did, then just like this video, it wouldn't even pass 8 minutes. We would have just shut it off immediately. Just the same as me giving a tarot card reading. You know who's just a charlatan and who isn't. So, the epistemology on what you believe in, it really does make a big difference because you need to prove to yourself first that what you do is something that is worthwhile. Because there's going to come a time, and I know it happened to me for a good portion of my time, even here on the left-hand path, that I did nothing but just believe for the sake of believing and not a lot of doing these things because, well, I based it off of knowledge. I mean, I did, but it was still a lot of passion, raw passion. You know what I mean? It's like I'm looking at the short-term effects, but not the long-term effects. I'm suffering these consequences, but I'm getting right back up. There's nothing wrong with that, with as a whole. But if you think about the consequences and you think about the long-term effects, you can see that you're just more better off and you're more well-rounded. So again, I ask you the question, what is your epistemology when it comes to what you do? Hopefully you've convinced yourself, just like I'm trying to do in this particular video, to encourage you, to help you to keep on doing what you do. Because after all, by working with Sorath, Beelzebub, Clawneck, and Satan, they don't have to prove to me anything, but they know the burden of proof falls upon them. Hell, there's times when Satan had to, and I kid you not, it's a real experience. Because I'm such a grounded person that sometimes lucid dreaming is not enough. Synchronicities is not enough. And Satan's been doing this lately. That he had to go into my body, almost like possession, and he has to make me feel the feelings of someone who is just overly obsessive, just to teach me a lesson. And the reason being, and I got to thinking, is that sometimes when it comes to persons like me who are like really grounded, and you look for evidence and you think about what you do, yeah, I can see why Satan has to force me to see things his way so that I could definitely benefit. I mean, after all, he is my Patreon. He is someone that is could be quite a loving individual to be with, but then at the same time, a very straightforward thinker, a straightforward teacher. And mind you, when I say he has to force me, of course, there's no harm done. And I do think his aggressiveness at times, because after all, I don't see myself learning or getting the point any other way. Because a fire needs to be lit under my ass sometimes so that I can learn. Because I'm such a grounded individual. Because it's just how I am. And perhaps you're the same way. But I thank him for that. Because upon going through these feelings that are not my own, and I have to feel this way, it strengthens my epistemology. It strengthens what I do so I can see things that he wants me to see. Because, after all, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. But I thank him for that. So, with that said and done, hopefully you liked this video. So please subscribe to my channel so that we could get more videos coming your way, more content. And you could also smash the like buttons as well, because it does help me out a lot. Thank you all, and I see you soon in my next video.